Hello and welcome to Virtual Service Catalog. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install and configure Virtual Service Catalog. So this is a feature that provides a central repository for viewing and sharing virtual services. From a single dashboard, you can quickly view the available services that are deployed to a VSE in your enterprise. That means that teams across your organization can use this feature to find and leverage existing services and reduce the overhead of creating and maintaining new virtual services if there's already an existing service that will meet their needs. Now, if you installed Virtual Service Catalog in 10.3, one change that you'll notice right away is that Identity and Access Manager is no longer part of the Virtual Service Catalog installation. Identity and Access Manager is now installed with your DevTest Solutions install, and it controls authorization for all of DevTest. For Virtual Service Catalog, that means that you will need to know the location of the Identity and Access Manager that you installed with DevTest so that you can point to it. It also means that before you can use Virtual Service Catalog, your Identity and Access Manager must be up and running, and you must define at least one user with access privileges to Virtual Service Catalog. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of installing Identity and Access Manager, but if you need help with that process, there is more information available in the DocOps space. So to get there, just open a browser and go to docops.ca.com/DTS for DevTest Solutions. For installation help, you can go to Installing and Configuring DevTest Server. And for more information about using this feature, you can either search for Identity and Access Manager here, or you can navigate to Administering and Security, and then select Identity and Access Manager. But for this video, I'm going to focus on setting up Virtual Service Catalog. So I am going to show you how to set up a user in Identity and Access Manager. Then we're going to download the installer, and then I'm going to install and run Virtual Service Catalog. So let's get started by opening Identity and Access Manager to create a user with access to Virtual Service Catalog. And you can do this after the install if you prefer, but you do have to do it before you can access and use Virtual Service Catalog. So I'm going to click Users under the Manage menu, and then from there I'm just going to click Add User. I'm going to enter a name for the user, and I'm going to create this user with admin privileges for Virtual Service Catalog, so I'm going to call it VSC Admin. Then I'm going to go to the Credentials tab where I can enter a password. I enter the password and enter it again for confirmation, and click Reset Password. And then I'm prompted to confirm that I want to change the password, which I do. And now I just need to set the permissions, and to do that I go to the Role Mappings tab. And you can see here that there are two options. Virtual Service Catalog User lets you view and drill down into all the available virtual services. Virtual Service Catalog Administrator also lets you set up the enterprise dashboard connections that let Virtual Service Catalog display the available services. I'm going to go ahead and select Virtual Service Catalog Administrator and then click Add Selected. And that role is added to the assigned columns for this user, and we now have a user with the permissions that we need to access and use Virtual Service Catalog. So now we're ready to download and run the installer. So this is a separate install from DevTest Solutions, but you can download the installer just like you download your Service Virtualization installer from the download management page at support.ca.com. In fact, it's just listed as an additional file under CA Service Virtualization. The install itself is pretty straightforward, but let's go ahead and walk through it real quick. When you launch the installer, the first step that shows up is the welcome screen. So just click Next, and then you're prompted to accept the terms of the license agreement. To do that, you need to scroll to the bottom of the agreement, click I accept the terms of the license agreement, and click Next. And then you're prompted to select your installation directory. You can install it wherever you like, but the directory that I've selected is the typical default, so I can go ahead and click Next. And this screen lets you identify the host and port where Identity and Access Manager is installed. I'm installing locally, so I'm going to accept this default and click Next. And this step lets you choose whether to create desktop icons. I'm going to leave that selected and click Next. And this step is Windows specific, and it doesn't show up for other operating systems, but if you're on a Windows machine, you can choose whether to create a Start menu folder and name it, and click Next. And lastly, you can choose whether or not to install the Virtual Service Catalog service. I'm going to leave that selected and click Next. And that's pretty much it. Virtual Service Catalog is now being installed. Once that it's complete, after the install, there's some important information here that you can read through and then click Next, and then click Finish to complete the install. And now that the install is complete, you can see that my desktop icons were installed and I'm ready to go. So let's go ahead and try it out. To do that, I need to start Virtual Service Catalog from the desktop icon. And once that's up and running, I can also start the UI from the desktop icon, or I can just go to a browser and enter the URL directly. The default URL is localhost 51110. And here I can now log in with the ID that we created earlier. The ID works, and we know that I've logged in with admin permissions because the option for configuring dashboard connections is limited to admin users. If you do run into any issues when you're installing this on your own, there is additional information in the DevTest Solution DocOps space, and to get there, just click the Help icon at the top of the page. And the Help icon takes you to Using Virtual Service Catalog. In this section, you can also find instructions and another video for configuring enterprise dashboard connections. There's also more information about using Virtual Service Catalog and finding the specific virtual service that you're looking for. And if you need help setting up Identity and Access Manager, you can just search for Identity and Access Manager here, or you can navigate to Administering and Security. And that pretty much wraps up the steps for installing this feature. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for viewing it, and this concludes installing Virtual Service Catalog. For more detailed information about this product, click the information bubble in the top right corner to go to the CA Service Virtualization product page. From there you can access product documentation, support, or communities, and you can see the available learning paths.